Hey, welcome back to the Astrology of Things. I'm your host and certified astrologer, Sheena, and today is February 22nd, 2026, and the time is 5:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm back with my Sun Through the Houses and Synastry series. This is the last video that I'll be adding to the series. So if you're interested in some of the other house overlays, I'll be sure to link the playlist in the description. So, before we get started, there are a few things that I just wanted to make note of. So, in relationship astrology, it's not just about romantic relationships. This includes familial relationships, platonic relationships, business partnerships, and even human and animal relationships. And also, a big part of relationship astrology is first understanding each individual separately. And you really have to understand each individual's natal chart, how their planets are placed in their natal chart, how those planets relate to one another, and you have to understand the dignity and debility of those planets in the natal chart before you overlay these charts together and start looking at how these two charts interact and impact each other. So, for example, in the case of the sun, you have to look at how the sun person's sun behaves in their natal chart. So their sun could be at home in Leo, or the sun could be in its fall over in Leo, or the sun could be exalted over in Aries. And that really tells you the how the sun is expressing its energy. All right, so let's get into it. So I have two example charts that we're going to use to just help you get a visual of how things look with actual natal charts. Well, these are made up charts, but they are natal charts. So here I have person A. You see they're born on February 3rd, 1989. In New York, they're Scorpio rising. So we're going to be using person A as the house person. So we're going to be looking at their 8th house. And then we have person B. And this person was born June 13th, 1994. 2:31 a.m. They're also born in New York. So they're Aries rising. But we want to understand how, the person B's sun interacts with the 8th house. And to be specific, I'm not going to do an interpretation of these two people specifically. I'm still just going to do a general interpretation. All right. So when we look at the synastry between two individuals, we look at their charts in relation to one another. So you can see person A's natal chart is on the inner ring and person B's natal chart is on the outer ring. So we're going to be looking at how the sun impacts person A's 8th house and how they work together in this synastry relationship. And so to understand any overlay in relationship astrology, we first have to, before I get into that, I just want to remove all the noise and just point out where we're actually focusing. All right, so in order to understand this particular synastry between two people, we first have to understand the meaning of the eighth house. And so the eighth house in our natal chart is the domain that deals with shared resources, things owed or given to others, such as loans and taxes. And it's also the house of inheritances. Aside from the shared resources, this is also a deeply emotional and psychologically sensitive house. So it represents intimacy between yourself and other individuals. And this house also shows traumas and fears and psychological states that hold you back and that is in need of release and transformation for the sake of your self-preservation. So this house is known for, shame, grief, embarrassment. I consider this particular house like the baggage we carry around with us that, weighs us down in emotional and psychological ways. And so we also have to understand the sun. So the sun is coming from person B. And so the sun in general, in a natal chart, represents the ego. It represents our external actions and expressions. It's what people put focus on and attention toward. It represents goals and achievements and pride. It is how people perform and act. And so, as I mentioned earlier, each person's sun is going to behave differently. Each person's sun is in different zodiac signs. Each person's sun is natally in different houses. So all of those nuances really go into how one particular sun is going to impact another person's eighth house. So in general, with this particular overlay in synastry, the sun person is one whose actions, their external expressions, what they bring attention to and visibility to, and how they perform activates all of the eighth house significations I previously mentioned. So they bring visibility and attention to shared resources. So they may be privy to the eighth house person's financial situation, as far as what debts that eighth person has, or the inheritances that the eighth house person has received or are to receive. So the sun person could be one who provides the eighth house person with financial advice on how to manage and reduce their debts, or they may be a tax auditor or a tax preparer for the eighth house person. Or the sun person could be the executrix or executor of a will that has deemed the eighth house person a recipient of some sort of inheritance. But more on the emotional side of things, through the sun person's actions or inactions, they could be someone who actually triggers the eighth house person. So they can trigger old wounds and traumas that lie dormant and underneath the surface. And so how they behave just naturally, how they act naturally, it could bring a lot of emotional discomfort to the eighth house person, as the sun person is bringing awareness to the things within the eighth house person that needs healing and released in their psyche, and things that needs to be, and things that the eighth house person needs to deal with. And so, the eighth house or the sun person, even though they're triggering the eighth house person, this could just be really unintentional. So the sun person could really just have really amazing intentions in their relationship with you, but for some reason or another, they just trigger those insecurities, those vulnerabilities, and trauma responses. So, for example, I'm sure you've heard of cases where someone who comes into your life is everything you've been asking for, but their sincerity towards you actually gives you pause. It triggers a response in you that says that this person isn't safe, or that this person is up to something because they're being nice and sincere to me. But because of the eighth house person's past experiences, when people come across to them as sincere and genuine, the eighth house person again thinks, they want something from them. And so they learned from past experiences to put a wall up and to protect themselves. So, in a way, the sun person comes into your life and is there to show you this trauma response that is no longer needed and is no longer beneficial to your safety. And so they shed light on this part or aspect of yourself that needs released and healing. And so another way to look at this overlay is, thinking about how the eighth house is such an emotionally and psychologically sensitive house. The sun person might just be someone who actually sees this side of yourself. Like they are the ones who bears witness to situations where you are embarrassed or where you've been embarrassed. They bear witness to your experiences of grief, or they bear witness to shame that you've experienced. Or the sun person can just be curious about these deeply emotional and intimate parts of yourself, as they are curious and interested and focused on wanting to know you at a deeper level. They actually want to go beyond a surface level connection with you, and they want to connect with you on a more intimate level so that they do have a better understanding of why you tick the way that you do, and so that they can be more empathetic of who you are as an individual. So this particular overlay in Synastry is a common overlay found in individuals who have had or who are in long-term romantic relationships or even marriages. All right, so that's all I have on the Sun and 8th House overlay in Synastry. So feel free to share your personal experiences with this placement so others can learn about how this has applied to real life circumstances. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.